My stepmother cropped me out of every family photo for years because she wanted a perfect family without me. My stepmother Sheila has a hobby, and the hobby is pretending I do not exist. She married my dad when I was 12, a couple of years after my parents split, and from the first week she treated me like a stain on her nice new life. Where it showed up was the photos. Sheila is obsessed with pictures. The house is full of framed portraits. The holiday cards go out to 50 people every December, and she makes a thick photo book at the end of every year. Somewhere along the way I noticed I was not in a single one. At first I told myself I just was not around when they were taken. Then I looked closely at the frame on the mantle and I saw it. It was from a trip we all went on, and there was a strange empty space beside my dad, and my arm, my actual arm in my actual sleeve, was cut off at the edge of the print. She had trimmed me out and framed what was left. Once I saw it everywhere. Every photo in that house had been cut down to my dad, Sheila, and her 2 kids from before. I brought it to my dad. He said, "Oh, she just likes things to look a certain way? Don't read into it." I said, "Dad, she cut me out of a family photo and hung it on the wall." He said, "There probably wasn't room in the frame. You know how she is about things matching. There was plenty of room. You do not remove a child to make a frame match." When I went to Sheila directly, she smiled and said, "Sweetheart, I keep the pictures that work for the space. It's nothing personal. Don't make it a thing." Everything with her was don't make it a thing. So I did a petty thing, and I will admit it. Sheila hates any picture of herself that is not perfect. So whenever a group shot caught her mid-blink, I dropped that one into the family chat, captioned all sweet like I was sharing memories. It fixed nothing, but it made me feel a little less invisible for about 5 minutes. Meanwhile, she kept right on erasing me from everything that mattered. The holiday card that year had me trimmed off again. The photo book had a whole spread from my high school graduation with me cut out of my own graduation pictures. So it was Sheila and my dad beside a gap where their kid used to be. I stopped asking, because every time I asked, I became the sensitive one making drama out of nothing. Sheila kept winning, because in her house the walls told the story she wanted, and the story did not have me in it. Here is where it turned, and it was all her own doing. My grandma Yolanda, my dad's mom, was turning 70, and Sheila took the party over and decided she would handle the gifts. A framed collage for Yolanda and printed photo books for every relative. She worked for weeks, and she was so proud that she handed the books out herself, in front of everyone, and she had done exactly what she always does. She had gone through years of family pictures and cut me out of every single one, including the pictures of me and my grandma. There was one photo Yolanda loved, the 2 of us at her dining table from years back, coffee cups between us, and Sheila had trimmed me out so it was my grandma sitting next to an empty chair. Yolanda turned the pages looking for her grandchild and could not find me anywhere. She went through the whole book twice, then looked up and asked Sheila, in front of the entire party, where I was in any of the pictures. Sheila said, "Oh, I just picked the ones that looked best together. You know how it is." My grandma did not let it slide the way my dad always did. She held up the print of herself beside that empty chair and asked why she would cut her own grandchild out of a picture taken at her own table. Sheila started in with the "don't make it a thing" line, and Yolanda told her that erasing a child from a family is a very big thing, and she wanted to know how long it had been going on. That is when all of it came out. Years of it. Every trimmed frame and cropped card, laid out at a 70th birthday party, because Sheila could not resist making one more perfect book with me scissored out. My dad watched his own mother go from confused to hurt to furious, and he could not pretend anymore. He told Sheila, flat and firm, that this was not okay and never had been, and that he had been a coward for letting it slide. Sheila played the victim, naturally, said she worked hard on a gift and everyone was attacking her over some photographs. Nobody was buying it, and she sat there red-faced while the relatives she had spent years impressing looked at her like they were finally seeing her. I thought the hard part was over. Within 2 days, Sheila was calling relatives, crying on the phone, telling them my grandma had humiliated her on purpose and that I had put her up to it. She was rewriting the party before the cake was even stale. Then my dad called me, early, like he had been up all night deciding what to say. His voice was soft, guilt behind every word. He said, "I meant what I said. I should have stepped in years ago. I want to fix this," and asked me to come to dinner that week so we could sit down as a family. I said yes before he finished the sentence. When I told Yolanda, she was quiet a second and said, "Baby, your daddy means well, but he has never once held a line with that woman. Go, keep your eyes open." I told her this time felt different. She did not argue. She just said to go see for myself. The night of the dinner, I drove over with my stomach flipping in a good way. Ferdinand opened the door before I reached the porch and pulled me into a real hug, the kind where he held on an extra second. Then I looked at the walls. Every cropped photo was still hanging. The trip picture with my arm cut off, the holiday card, the graduation collage with the gap in it, still telling Sheila's version of this family like nothing had happened. I stopped in the hallway and said, "Dad, the photos are all still up." He rubbed the back of his neck the way he does right before he disappoints me and said, "I asked Sheila to take them down, but she said she would handle it in her own time." In her own time. That was Sheila for never, and he knew it, and he said it anyway like it was a reasonable answer. Then she came downstairs, hair done, smiling wide like she was welcoming me to a party. She hugged me, hand on my back, and said, "I'm so glad you came. I think we all got emotional at the party, and I just want us to move forward." I stood in her arms waiting for the sorry, or the "I should not have," or even just an "I understand why you were upset." It never came. She pulled back and started talking about the dinner she cooked and walked me in to show me the place settings like a folded napkin was the same thing as an apology. She never said one word about the photos, not the books at the party, not the frames hanging 5 feet from where we stood. We sat down, and for a while it was small talk and passing dishes. I kept waiting for my dad to steer it somewhere. He complimented the food, he asked about my job, and I sat there watching the window close, watching this turn into another evening where everybody pretended nothing was wrong because pretending was cheaper than dealing with Sheila. So I put my fork down and said, "Sheila, are you going to say anything about the photos?" The table went quiet. She set down her glass and let out this long sigh, the kind engineered to make you feel difficult for asking, and said, "I thought we were here to move forward, not rehash things. Move forward." Her favorite phrase, right behind "don't make it a thing." It meant I keep every trimmed frame on the wall and you keep pretending that is fine. I opened my mouth, and before I got a word out, Ferdinand put his hand on my arm, not on hers, on mine. He said, maybe we can ease into it, and the hope I carried into that house died right there between the candles and the nice plates. He told me to slow down, like I was the problem for raising the thing he had invited me over to discuss. The dinner was not a reconciliation. It was staging. All of it Sheila showing my dad how gracious she was being so that if I pushed, I would be the one wrecking a lovely evening. I finished the meal without saying much, and at the door he hugged me again and said, see, that was nice. We should do this more. I nodded and walked to my car, and the whole drive I heard my grandma's voice saying he has never once held a line with that woman. She called that night. I told her the truth. No apology. Photos still up. Dad folded like a napkin. She was quiet a long moment, then said, all right, I tried to let your father handle this like a grown man. He did not. Now I will handle it. She told me to come Saturday and bring any pictures I still had. When she opened her door that Saturday, her dining table was buried under photo albums. The old kind with sticky pages, stacks going back 40 years, plus shoe boxes of loose prints. She said, she wants to erase you? Fine. I have the originals. Every single one. Me as a baby in her arms. My kindergarten picture, front teeth missing, me and Ferdinand at a park when I was 4, him holding me up on the monkey bars, both of us laughing, holiday mornings, birthdays, 100 ordinary Tuesdays where everyone was just together. All of them whole. All of them showing me exactly where I belonged, in the middle of my family, not cut off at the edge. I picked up the park picture and could not talk for a second, because I had forgotten a version of us existed where he was holding on to me and not letting go. Then Yolanda told me what she had been doing all week. She had called the relatives from the party, and found out Sheila called them first, crying, saying I was dramatic and Yolanda had staged the whole thing to embarrass her. But 2 of them had gone back and studied the photo books page by page, paying attention this time, not one picture with me in it. My aunt told her. I thought it was odd at the time, but I didn't want to say anything. That landed harder than anything Sheila ever did. People had noticed and let it happen because speaking up felt awkward. My grandma said, she has been doing this so long people just accepted it. That stops now. Then she told me the plan and my whole body went still. Their anniversary was in 2 weeks, and every year the family did a small gathering. Yolanda was bringing her own display. Real photographs, everyone with me in it, printed clean, set side by side with the cropped versions Sheila had been circulating for years. I am not making a speech, she said. I am putting the truth on a table and letting people use their own eyes. The same weapon Sheila used for years, turned around. I asked her, what if Dad picks her side again? That was the part keeping me up at night. I had made peace with who Sheila was long ago. What I could not survive was Ferdinand seeing the proof laid out flat and still choosing the woman who erased his kid. Yolanda looked at me, steady and a little sad, and said, then you will know where you stand, and you will stop waiting on a man who will not fight for you. That is not cruelty, sweetheart. That is the truth setting you loose. She was right. Hope without action is just waiting, and I had waited long enough. 2 days later, my stepsister Ianthe texted me. Mom has been crying all week. She says Grandma is turning everyone against her. Can you please just let this go? I handed my phone to Yolanda instead of answering, and she read it and said, that woman has those kids trained to protect her. Don't be angry at them. They only know what she told them. Wyatt and Ianthe had grown up inside Sheila's version of things. They had never been trimmed off a card or cut from a frame. They had always been in the picture, literally, so they had no reason to question it. 2 days before the party, Ferdinand called, talking too fast, clearing his throat between words the way he does when he is buying time. He said, Sheila told me your grandmother is planning something and she's upset about it. Can you ask her to keep things calm? I asked him what exactly Sheila said, the real words, not his cleaned up version. He breathed a while, then gave me them. She said your grandmother is going to try to embarrass her again, and that you are helping. If you two do this, she is not coming, and neither are Wyatt and Ianthe. There it was. She would not fight head on, because she knew she could not win that way, not after relatives had gone back and checked her books. So she was holding the event hostage, gut the gathering, then let everyone notice half the family missing and decide it was our fault. I hated that it was smart. Yolanda said, if she does not come, that tells this family everything it needs to know. A person with nothing to hide does not run from photographs. But if Sheila stayed home, Ferdinand stayed home, because that is what he always did. And then the one person who needed to look at that table would not be in the room. That evening he called again, lighter, like he had solved something. Sheila would come, but only if Yolanda promised not to raise the photo issue. Can we please just have one nice family event? And for a second I almost said yes. The easy daughter was right there at the surface, the one who smiled and let the trimmed frame stay up because fighting cost more than swallowing it. Then I thought about the mantle, my arm cut off at the edge, my graduation, me scissored out of my own ceremony, my grandma beside an empty chair at her own table, and something went hard and quiet in me. I said, Dad, I have been quiet for years. I am not going to cause a scene, but I am not pretending everything is fine either. If Sheila wants to come, she can come. The line went silent, not the kind where someone is about to speak, the kind where something has landed heavier than expected. Then he said it. I just do not want to lose my family over some pictures. Some pictures. Years of his wife cutting his daughter out of every frame and card and book, the thing that made his own mother cry at her 70th birthday, and he called it some pictures. I gripped the phone and said, you have been losing me over some pictures for years. You just didn't notice. He said nothing at all. The call ended without a goodbye, and I stood at my counter and waited to cry and did not. I just felt clear. The morning of the party, I picked Yolanda up at 8, and we got to the rented hall an hour before anyone else. Cake on the back counter, streamers Sheila had picked out weeks ago. We took the table right by the entrance, the spot people pass on their way in. Yolanda opened her album flat so it could be flipped through like a guest book. Every spread had the same layout, the original photograph on the left, Sheila's cropped version on the right. No captions, no arrows, no angry notes, just the two pictures, and nobody needed help understanding what they were looking at. Then she set the framed originals along the back of the table, her and me at her table with the coffee cups, me and Ferdinand on the monkey bars, a holiday photo with everyone together and me right in the middle of it. She stepped back, nodded once, and said, that looks like a family. It did not read as an attack. It read as somebody putting out nice memories at an anniversary party. Guests started arriving at 10. My aunt came in first, and the table was the first thing you saw. She flipped through the album casually casually, smiling, and then her hand stopped moving. She was on the spread with the holiday card from 2 years back. Everyone gathered by the fireplace, and beside it the original, where I stood against my dad with my arm around his back. In Sheila's version, I was simply gone. My aunt looked up, found me across the room, and said, not loudly, but it carried, "Honey, is this what she has been doing?" I walked over and nodded, because that was all I could manage. She squeezed my shoulder and said she was sorry she had not seen it sooner. Relatives kept drifting over, and every time it was the same 3 beats. The pause, the quiet, the look across the room at me like they were seeing me for the first time in years, which in a way they were. Then Sheila and Ferdinand walked in. She was dressed up, hair perfect, smiling wide like she was arriving at her own coronation. They made it 4 steps before she saw the table. Her eyes traveled from the guests to the streamers to the frames, and her smile locked in place like someone had paused her. She crossed to the table fast, heels clicking, opened the album to a random spread, and the red climbed up her neck. She shut it hard and turned to my dad, low but not low enough. "I told you they would do this. We should leave right now." He did not answer. He reached past her, opened the album himself, and started turning pages one at a time, slowly, like a man reading something he could not stop reading. He reached my graduation and stopped. On the left, the original, me in my cap and gown between the 2 of them, all 3 of us smiling. On the right, the version she framed, just Ferdinand and Sheila beside empty space at a ceremony that was supposed to be mine. Sheila tugged his arm and said his name with that sharp edge that always got him moving, and he did not move. He looked up and found me, and his eyes were wet, and neither of us looked away first. That was the first time in years my dad stayed put when Sheila told him to walk out. Then Wyatt came in alone, saw the crowd, and picked up the album, his eyebrows pulled together. He stopped on a page and turned to his mother. "Mom, what is this? Why isn't she in any of your versions?" Sheila took the album out of his hands and held it against her chest, and her voice got loud enough for the whole hall. "This is a setup. They are trying to make me look bad in front of everyone." Wyatt did not back off. He looked at me, then at her, and his face was not confused anymore. "But the photos are right there, Mom. That is her arm. You cut her out." You could hear the ice shifting in the drink cooler. Sheila's mouth was open and nothing came out, and for the first time I could remember she had no line ready. No, don't make it a thing. No, let's move forward. No, you're being dramatic. So she turned to the room. "I want everyone to know I have done nothing but love this family. I cooked, I cleaned, I planned every holiday for years, and this is how I am repaid, with an ambush." She pointed at my grandma. "You had to turn my anniversary into a trial." Then she looked me in the face. "And you. I took you in. I raised you alongside my own children, and you have never once been grateful." I waited for someone to nod, for a relative to say she had a point, for my dad to smooth it over the way he always did. Nobody said one word, and it was the kind of silence that answers a question by itself. Then Yolanda stood up, slowly, not matching Sheila's energy at all. "Sheila, I did not make a speech. I did not accuse you of anything. I put real photographs on a table. If real photographs make you look bad, that is not my doing. That is yours." She picked up the framed original of the 2 of us with the coffee cups, and held it where the room could see, both of us laughing at something nobody else would ever know. "This is my grandchild. She belongs in every picture, and no amount of trimming changes that." A few relatives nodded. My aunt said, quietly but clearly enough, "She's right." 2 words, and they landed like another door closing. Sheila's eyes went around the room fast, face to face, hunting for one person who would take her side, and she did not find them. She turned to Ferdinand with an expression I had never seen on her, reaching for a rope she was no longer sure was there. "Say something. Tell them this is not fair. Tell them I did not mean anything by it." He was still holding the album open. He looked at her, then at me, then back at her, and when he spoke every word cost him something. "How many?" She blinked. "What?" He lifted the book enough that she could see the pages. "How many photos did you cut her out of? Because I am looking at years in here. Years, Sheila. My only daughter, and you cut her out of everything like she was never in the room." Then the performance dropped off her completely and she started to cry. Not the pretty crying she did on the phone to relatives. Her voice went thin. "I did not think it was that serious." He closed the album slowly, pressed the cover flat, and the sound it made was final. He said, "You cut her out of her own graduation. You knew exactly what you were doing." She opened her mouth and closed it, because there is no version of that sentence that comes out clean. Behind her, the Anthe stood with her arms crossed tight, looking at the floor. Not at her mother, not at me, not at anyone. The girl who texted me twice asking me to let it go said nothing at all, and that silence was louder than anything she could have said. Sheila looked around one last time, at relatives who used to compliment her photo books, at people who hung her holiday cards on their refrigerators, and not one smiled back. Then Ferdinand set the album down carefully, like it mattered, and walked across the room to me. His jaw was doing that thing where it tightens and releases because you are trying not to break. He said, "I should have listened the first time you told me. I chose easy over right and you paid for it. I am sorry." Then he pulled me into a hug, not the polite kind he gave me at doors, the kind where a person holds on because he is afraid of what happens if he lets go. His hand came up to the back of my head the way it used to when I was small, and his chest was shaking, and I cried too, all of it coming up at once. Behind us I heard heels on the floor. Sheila picked up her purse and said, "I am not staying to be treated like this," and walked out. Nobody followed her. Nobody called after her or went to smooth it over. I found my grandma across the room and she gave me one small nod. The album stayed open by the door all afternoon, my arm, uncropped, around his back.